The grand hall of the alien palace was filled with strange lights and soft music that sounded like water flowing through glass. Han Jaiwu stood near the edge of the human delegation, his eyes sharp and his stance ready. He had been sent as part of the security team for the peace talks between the humans and the Valari, the ruling alien race of this world. The air was warm and heavy with the smell of flowers that seemed to glow faintly under the golden ceiling. At the center of the hall stood Princess Leora, tall and graceful, her silver eyes catching the light like moonlit water. She wore a gown made from threads that shimmered in shifting colors, moving like the sky at sunset. Jaiwu had never seen anyone like her. She moved with calm confidence, her hands folded in front of her as she spoke softly to the human ambassador. The Valari guards stood around her in a perfect circle, their armor smooth and dark like polished stone. Jaiwu scanned the crowd. He had been trained to notice details, how people shifted their weight, where their eyes moved, how their hands rested. Most of the aliens were watching the talks, but one figure at the far side of the room was different. The man's body was tense, and his long cloak hung strangely, as if hiding something. Without warning, the figure broke into a run. The cloak flew open, and Jaiwu saw the gleam of a curved blade, long and sharp, shaped for a killing strike. The man was moving straight for Princess Leora. Jaiwu didn't think. His body moved before his mind caught up. He pushed through two Valari guards, hearing their surprised shouts. The assassin's arm swung forward, the blade aimed at Leora's chest. Jaiwu slammed into her, shoving her aside as the weapon came down. Pain exploded in his side. The blade cut deep and his legs buckled. The Valari guards reacted instantly. Two tackled the assassin to the ground, and another struck him across the head with a heavy staff. The blade clattered to the floor. Jaiwu could feel warm blood spreading across his uniform. His breathing came in short, sharp gasps. Through the haze of pain, he felt a gentle hand on his face. Princess Leora was kneeling beside him, her eyes wide and filled with something he couldn't quite name. Fear, shock, maybe even sorrow. "You saved me," she said softly, her voice almost a whisper. Her words were in perfect human language, though her accent gave them a musical rhythm. Then she spoke again, this time in her own tongue, the sounds sharp yet flowing. Jaiwu didn't understand, but the Valari guards froze when they heard it. Her hands pressed against his wound. "Stay awake," she told him. "Do not close your eyes." His vision blurred, and the voices around him became muffled. He felt himself being lifted onto a stretcher of smooth, glowing metal. The ceiling above seemed to swirl and fade. When Jaiwu opened his eyes again, he was lying in a room bathed in soft blue light. The bed beneath him was warm, and a faint hum came from the walls. His side ached, but when he looked down, he saw the wound covered by a strange, flexible bandage that seemed alive, moving slightly with each breath. Princess Leora sat beside his bed. She was no longer wearing her gown but a simpler robe of pale green, her hair loose over her shoulders. Her eyes studied him closely. "You are awake," she said. "That is good." Jaiwu tried to sit up, but she gently pushed him back. "Rest. You are not healed yet." "What happened?" he asked, his voice rough. "The assassin failed," she said. "Because of you." Her gaze did not waver. "You have done something no human was expected to do. You placed yourself in danger for me. For a Valari royal." "I'm a soldier," Jaiwu said simply. "Protecting people is my job." She tilted her head slightly. "In my people's law, this is more than duty. This is life-saving. And when a royal life is saved, an ancient bond is made." She placed a hand over her chest. "It is called the life debt. From this day my fate is bound to yours." Jaiwu blinked. "Bound? What does that mean?" "It means I must protect you as you have protected me. I must stand with you in danger, in peace, in all things. Means you are under my shield, my name, my home. And, it may mean more." He shook his head. "That's not necessary." Her voice became firm. To refuse a life debt is to spit on the honor of my people. It would be an insult so deep that peace between our worlds could break. Jaiwu stared at the ceiling. This was far bigger than he had expected. He had acted without thinking, the way soldiers were trained to do. But now his choice had pulled him into something that seemed almost impossible to walk away from. Princess Leora leaned closer. You do not understand now, but you will. This bond is not just words. It will change how your people and mine see each other. Before Jaiwu could answer, a tall Valari male entered the room, his armor gleaming in the soft light. He bowed slightly to Leora. The council is waiting for you, princess. They want to discuss the bond. Leora nodded, then looked back at Jaiwu. Rest. I will return. When she was gone, Jaiwu closed his eyes again, but sleep didn't come easily. His mind replayed the moment over and over. The silver flash of the blade, the shock in Leora's eyes, the strange words she had spoken. Somewhere deep inside, he knew that nothing about his life was going to be simple from this day forward. Jinwoo woke to the sound of soft chimes. The room was warm, dimly lit by a golden light that streamed through a wide window. For a moment, he thought he was still in the medical tent from the battlefield, but this place was much cleaner, the air scented with something sweet. His arm ached, and when he looked, he saw a long bandage running from his shoulder to his elbow. He sat up slowly, trying to remember what had happened. The memories came back in flashes: the alien soldier's blade, the princess in danger, his body moving on instinct to protect her, then pain and darkness. Before he could think more, the door opened. Princess Era entered, her long silver hair tied loosely behind her back. She wore a flowing robe of pale blue, with delicate golden patterns that caught the light. She paused at the sight of him awake, and her lips curved into a small smile. You are alive, she said quietly. Jinwoo nodded. Looks like it. His voice was hoarse but steady. Where am I? You are in my family's sky palace, Era replied. It floats above the capital city. You have been here for 4 days. The healers worked hard to mend you. 4 days. Jinwoo's thoughts spun. He should have been with his unit. His commander would think he was missing, or worse. I need to return to my people, he said firmly. Era stepped closer, her expression unreadable. You cannot leave. Jinwoo's eyes narrowed. Why not? Because, she said softly, you saved my life. And by the law of my people, that means I owe you my life in return. This is a life debt. It is unbreakable. Jinwoo stared at her. I didn't save you because I wanted a reward. I know, she interrupted gently. But tradition is tradition. You protected me from certain death. That binds us. Until my life debt is repaid, you will stay by my side. He didn't like the sound of that. The last thing he wanted was to be trapped in some foreign palace because of an alien custom. And how exactly do you repay a life debt, he asked. Era hesitated, then looked him straight in the eyes. That depends on the one owed. You may ask for anything, and it will be given. Protection, riches, even my hand in union. Or, you may choose to allow me to decide how to repay you. But until it is settled, I cannot allow you to leave. Jinwoo exhaled slowly. He wasn't sure if she was serious about the union part or if it was just a cultural phrase, but he wasn't about to argue further when his head still felt heavy from the injury. Fine, he muttered. For now. Era's smile returned faintly, though her gaze held something deeper. Relief, perhaps. Rest. You will need your strength. My father will want to meet you. The next day, Jinwoo was escorted by 2 tall alien guards to the throne hall. The room was enormous, with silver pillars that reached up into a sky-blue dome painted with stars. At the far end sat the Emperor, Era's father. His robes shimmered with the same golden threads as Era's, though his crown was a ring of thin metal floating above his head, held in place by some invisible force. Jinwoo bowed slightly, not as low as the aliens did, but enough to show respect. The Emperor studied him with eyes the color of deep ocean. You are the human soldier who saved my daughter, the emperor said in a calm, powerful voice. Yes, Jinwu replied. It is rare for a human to act with such honor toward one of our blood, the emperor continued. The life debt she owes you is not a small matter. Our laws demand that it be fulfilled without delay. Jinwu shifted uncomfortably. I don't want riches or power. I just want to go back to my people. The emperor leaned forward. You may yet return. But until the debt is balanced, you will remain under my protection. Many would see you as a threat to the peace between our peoples. Some already plot against you. That caught Jinwu's attention. Because I saved her. Because you are human, the emperor corrected. And because there are those who believe a human should never stand so close to the royal line. Jinwu understood the warning. Staying here wasn't just about a tradition, it was also about survival. After the audience, Era walked beside him through the palace corridors. My father sees value in you, she said softly. That is a good thing. But you must be careful. There are many here who think you have taken something that was not yours to take. Jinwu glanced at her. And what do you think? She met his gaze without hesitation. I think you are different. You didn't act out of greed or ambition. You acted because it was right. And that is dangerous in this place. Over the next week, Jinwu began to notice the small ways the palace watched him. Guards at every turn, whispers when he passed, strange looks from nobles in the hall. Era stayed close to him, almost as if shielding him from some unseen threat. One evening, as they walked in the garden under the floating lights of glowing plants, Era suddenly stopped. There is something you must know, she said. The one who attacked me, the assassin, was from a rival clan. They may come again. And if they learn you are the one who saved me, they will try to remove you. Jinwu's instincts sharpened. Then I'll be ready. Era shook her head. No, you cannot fight them here. If you fall, my life debt will be meaningless. I will not allow it. He looked at her, seeing for the first time the weight she carried. Not just as a princess, but as someone bound by a tradition she could not escape. And in that moment he realized something. This wasn't just about him anymore. The night was quiet, but Jinwu's mind wasn't. Somewhere deep down, he knew that whatever came next, the choice to save her that day had set something in motion that neither of them could easily stop. And whether he liked it or not, he was now a part of her world. Jinwu woke before sunrise. The palace was quiet. The corridors dim except for a few glowing lanterns floating in the air. He had barely slept. The words of the emperor and Era kept repeating in his mind. Plots against him, danger from rival clans, and the heavy chain of the life debt. He decided to walk in the gardens. It was the only place in the palace where he could think clearly. The air was cool, and the soft hum of alien insects filled the silence. The plants glowed faintly, their colors shifting like ripples in water. He sat on a low stone bench and watched the lights fade into the first touch of dawn. He heard light footsteps. Era appeared, wearing a simple white robe instead of her usual royal attire. Her silver hair caught the dim light, and she smiled faintly when she saw him. You could not sleep, she guessed. Jinwu shook his head. Too many thoughts. Era sat beside him. You still want to return to your people? Yes, he admitted. But now I know leaving isn't just about you or the life debt. There are people who want me dead. Going back could be just as dangerous. Era's gaze lowered. I wish things were simpler. But in my world every choice has weight. Every action becomes part of a chain. They sat in silence for a moment, the morning light beginning to spread across the horizon. Then Era spoke again, her voice quieter. There will be a gathering tonight. Nobles from the other clans will come to the palace. Some will be allies. Some will not. I want you to be there. Jinwu frowned. Won't that just make me more of a target? Yes, Era said without hesitation. But it will also show them you are under my protection. It will show them you are not afraid. Later that day, servants brought Jinwu clothing unlike anything he had worn before. The outfit was a deep black with gold patterns running along the sleeves, and a silver clasp shaped like a wing. It felt strange, but it fit him perfectly. That evening, the great hall was filled with music, the air heavy with scents of alien spices. Nobles in shimmering robes moved through the crowd, speaking in low voices and exchanging careful smiles. Jinwoo stood beside Era, trying to keep his posture steady. Many eyes turned toward him, some curious, some cold. A few whispered to each other, not even trying to hide it. An older noble with sharp features approached. His robe was crimson, and his eyes were a pale gold. "So this is the human soldier," he said, his tone polite but edged. "The one who leaped in front of a blade meant for our princess." Jinwoo nodded. "That's me." The noble studied him for a moment. "Tell me, soldier, was it bravery or foolishness?" Jinwoo met his gaze evenly. "Does it matter? She's alive. That's what counts." A faint smile touched the noble's lips, though it did not reach his eyes. "Perhaps." He bowed slightly to Era and moved away. The night went on, and Jinwoo began to see the unspoken game being played. Every conversation was layered with meaning, every smile hiding something else. Era guided him through it, introducing him to those she trusted and keeping him away from those she did not. But even with her care, Jinwoo felt a prickle of unease. Several times, he caught sight of the crimson-robed noble watching him from across the room. When the gathering finally ended, Era walked with him back to his quarters. "You did well," she said. "You spoke simply. That is rare here. They will remember that." Jinwoo nodded, but his mind was elsewhere. "That noble in red, who is he?" Era's expression darkened slightly. "His name is Lord Tail. His clan was once close to the throne, but now they are not. Some say he wants that power back. Be careful with him." That night, Jinwoo woke to a faint sound, metal scraping against metal. He sat up, every instinct alert. The noise came again from the balcony. He moved silently across the room and slid the door open. The cold night air rushed in. A shadow moved at the edge of the balcony. Without thinking, Jinwoo grabbed the figure by the arm and pulled. The intruder stumbled forward, a thin blade falling from their hand. Under the moonlight, Jinwoo saw the attacker's face. It was covered by a black cloth, but the eyes were unmistakably alien. The attacker twisted, trying to break free, but Jinwoo's grip tightened. "Who sent you?" he demanded. The attacker did not answer. Instead, they reached for a small device at their belt. Jinwoo recognized the danger and shoved them backward. The device exploded in a flash of light, and when his vision cleared, the attacker was gone, leaping over the balcony into the night. Moments later, the door burst open and Era rushed in with 2 guards. "What happened?" Jinwoo pointed toward the balcony. "Someone tried to kill me." Era's eyes hardened. "It begins sooner than I thought." She turned to the guards. "Double the watch. No one enters without my permission." When the guards left, Era looked at Jinwoo. "Do you see now why you cannot leave? Outside these walls, you would not last a day." Jinwoo exhaled slowly. "Then I guess I'm stuck here until this is over." Era stepped closer. "Not stuck. Chosen. You were chosen the moment you acted on that battlefield. And now, whether you like it or not, you are part of my fight." Jinwoo met her gaze, and for the first time, he saw no trace of the royal mask she wore before others. There was only the truth. She was determined to protect him, just as he had protected her. Somewhere deep inside he felt a shift. This was no longer just about going home. This was about survival. This was about loyalty. And maybe it was about something more. Han Jaiwo's recovery was slow. The alien medical technology worked wonders, but his body still felt heavy, and his mind often returned to the moment he stepped between the blade and Princess Leora. Days passed in quiet rhythm. Leora visited often, bringing food, asking questions about Earth, and telling him about her own world. She was curious about human customs, and Jaiwo noticed she listened closely to everything he said, as though each word was precious. One afternoon, a soft chime rang, and Leora entered with a serious expression. She sat beside him, hands folded in her lap. "The council has decided," she said. "The life debt will be honored in full. You will remain here, under my protection, until the bond is fulfilled." Jaiwu frowned. "How long will that be?" Her silver eyes met his. "A life debt ends only when the one who owes it saves the other's life in return, or when both lives end. It could be a very long time." The weight of her words sank in. He was no longer just a soldier. He was now part of something ancient, something that carried meaning for an entire civilization. He wasn't sure he was ready for it. Soon Jaiwu was allowed to walk in the palace gardens. Strange flowers turned to follow him, and the air was filled with sweet, unknown scents. Leora walked beside him, her steps graceful. "Many in the court question this bond," she admitted. "Some think it is dangerous to tie royal fate to a human. Others see it as a sign of trust between our peoples." Jaiwu looked at her. "And you?" "I think," she said softly, "that fate rarely makes mistakes." Their talks grew easier, and Jaiwu saw more of the woman behind the crown, a sharp mind, quiet strength, and a kindness that disarmed him. But the air still held tension. Rumors spread that those behind the attack had not been caught. One evening a messenger arrived, speaking rapidly in Valari. Leora's eyes narrowed. "There has been another attempt, this time on my father, the king. We must leave the palace." Without hesitation, Jaiwu followed her through hidden corridors to a small craft waiting beyond the walls. As the ship rose into the night, he saw calm on her face, but also a flicker of worry. Deep inside, Jaiwu knew this bond was already changing both their lives, and the danger was only beginning. Han Jaiwu's recovery was slow. The alien medical technology worked wonders, but his body still felt heavy, and his mind often returned to the moment he stepped between the blade and Princess Leora. Days passed in quiet rhythm. Leora visited often, bringing food, asking questions about Earth, and telling him about her own world. She listened to his stories with deep interest, her silver eyes fixed on him as if each detail mattered. One afternoon, a soft chime rang, and Leora entered with a solemn expression. She sat beside him. "The council has decided," she said. "The life debt will be honored in full. You will remain here, under my protection, until the bond is fulfilled." Jaiwu frowned. "How long will that be?" Her gaze was steady. "A life debt ends only when the one who owes it saves the other's life in return, or when both lives end. It could be a very long time." The weight of her words sank in. He was no longer just a soldier. He was part of something ancient, something sacred to her people. He didn't know if he was ready, but there was no turning back. When Jaiwu was allowed to walk again, he explored the palace gardens with Leora. The strange flowers turned to follow him, their petals glowing faintly, and the air carried a sweet, unfamiliar fragrance. "Many in the court question this bond," Leora admitted as they walked. "Some fear it ties our royal fate to a human. Others see it as a bridge between our peoples." Jaiwu glanced at her. "And you?" "I think fate rarely makes mistakes," she said softly. Their conversations became warmer. Jaiwu saw beyond the title of princess. He saw a woman with wit, courage, and kindness. But the palace was not safe. Rumors spread that the attackers were still free. One evening a messenger arrived, speaking quickly in Valari. Leora's eyes hardened. "There has been another attempt on my father, the king. We must leave." Jaiwu followed her through hidden passages to a small craft. As they lifted off into the starry night, he saw her calm mask, but beneath it, the glint of fear. He realized then that their bond was no longer just tradition, it was survival. And somewhere deep inside, he knew their lives would never be the same.